You're all so little.
Okay, people, we are live. It looks like we're streaming live here. My name is Dr. Sharnael, Wolverton-Sehon. I am with swiftfire.org, True TV, and I'm super stoked tonight because I have some really radiant guests who are going to bring a lot to the table. Really super excited to have both young Pharaoh here with us tonight, as well as Amelia Love, and a little backstory. Amelia and I were on a panel with Carrie Cassidy and David Rodriguez and Laura Eisenhower and Sean Stone and a whole group of people. That's where I met her initially. But what I didn't realize is during the actual live on the panel, Amelia keeps talking and she mentions young Pharaoh, and it's still like whatever. And then when I keep connecting and listening, I realize, wait a minute, I have listened to both of these people before, but I was driving out of town, and Robert Steele is a dear friend of mine, and we've interviewed each other back and forth. And when you're on the YouTube and then it like clicks and goes to like the next deal, and his interview with you guys was on there, but I never saw your faces. I just heard your words. So when I heard Amelia and her voice, I was like, gosh, she's so familiar. And I couldn't figure it out. But then it was like, wait a minute, I know who that is. When she started mentioning young Pharaoh, I'm like, oh my God, I've listened to both of these guys before. So I am super excited to have both of you here at the same time. First of all, just thank you for being with us here tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. Beautiful backstory. I'm excited to be here with you both. Of course, Amelia, as always. And I am fully confident that, as always, we will make this a beautiful, beautiful exchange of information.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, it feels really good. And I'm so impressed by the wealth of knowledge that Dr. Sharnael has. And I just know we were having a quick chat on the phone just this morning. And the stuff that she said even then, it was like, oh my God, this woman is my teacher. That's who she is. Like, I'm telling you, well, I think in past lives and in this one. And it's like, wow. And she said some things that I just was like, Pharaoh is gonna love discussing this. Like, I was just like, this is just perfect. So yeah, I almost don't know where to start. Should I bring up what we were talking about and then you go into it, or is there some other things you'd like to talk about first?
You know what? That's a great start. And that's one of the things that I was so excited to talk to him about initially, because it seems like he's on this track for family and the beauty and the love of a whole family being together. And we were talking early this morning. You want to go into that a little bit, Amelia?
Yeah. So we were just talking about how the family unit around the world is the most strongest thing in humanity. And when we were talking about that, obviously we're aware about the war on Black men and on the Black family, but just also the whole idea of family as a whole in every country, in every race. And then straight away she started telling me this story about the elephants in Africa, and it was has she told you, Pharaoh?
No,
but I'm finna indulge right now.
Yeah, so go ahead. It's fascinating.
So I actually did a teaching, I believe it was either 2010 or 2012, because I saw a documentary and read articles, and you guys can Google this. I mean, it's out there, it's public. But they did this amazing story because, this is not something that just started as far as the breakdown of the family and even marriages in general, and this target specifically to men. Because what I was seeing over and over when I would go to conferences, like spiritual conferences, church conferences, there would be like 99.9% women in these audiences. And they would be, I'd be like, where's the dudes? Where's the guys? And so, I started doing stats on even like religion and religions, which I'm not religious and I'm not all about religion at all. I'm very anti-religion. But I started looking into the fact that if a man would go to a church, let's say, and bring his entire family, that the chances of the entire family continuing with that legacy of, church values and what have you, that it was like in the 99% range. 97, actually it was 97% range. But if just the child had went, it was like maybe 30% or something that he would continue in that, or she would continue in that. And if the mother had went alone, it raised up to maybe like in the 40s. So just looking at that stat of like how amazing and how God source energy has designed us on the level of really needing the balance of both for this partnership, this beautiful partnership. And it led me to this article about elephants. And there was, I believe it was Africa. I'm not 100%. I have to go back and look, but there was like a refuge wherever this place was. And they were they're wanting to retire and help support these older male elephants by bringing them into kind of like a refuge place away from the wild, thinking they were doing something good, but people, humans, we get involved when we think we know everything and we just like screw it up. But so they helicoptered these male elephants out of the wild and brought them to this refuge. And then what they were noticing in the villages and what have you is they had this huge dangerous situation, actually, because what happened is the men, the teenage elephant boys started forming groups where they were actually not only fighting within these groups with each other, but they were going after other animals like rhinos, and they were finding rhinos dead with, you would think there'd be like puncture wounds, or maybe someone had hunted this rhino down or whatever, and it wasn't. They started putting cameras up and finding that these groups of young elephants were going out and basically hunting down other animals, and they eat plants. So there's no reason to kill, mostly if you're going to kill another animal, it's for to eat it. So right. They're obviously not eating it. This is just like a sport to them all of a sudden, or something was going on. So then they also started noticing, because elephants are known to pick a partner and stay with that partner for life. And there was all of a sudden this like elephant orgy fest where everybody was like loosey-goosey and partnership. And even with like the young female elephants, they were starting way younger to actually jump in with sexual intercourse with other elephants. And right. So it was just like total chaos. And then they actually started attacking humans, even to that level, where people were afraid to go in there. And so they started tracking these elephants, and they started testing their pheromones, their testosterone, their blood levels, and whatever. And there was such a mess up of the pheromones, and the hormones were really out of balance in the testosterone. So they went and they brought these elephants back to their the tribe. And when they brought them back, like everything suddenly balanced out harmoniously. It's just like a miracle. Everyone's back because they had that contact with other male species, not just by physical touch, but literally in the biofield is where we contain all these pheromones. And so what do you think about that? I'd love to hear your feedback on that.
I think that that's a beautiful story. I love that story because people don't understand that everything we know comes from observing nature. And that basically just gave us the magical answer that we all know, which is the presence of masculinity. And I think that what humans need to realize is we have an extra octave of thought that elephants, at least to our knowledge at this current time, do not possess. When it comes to masculinity, what a lot of men have to realize is, just like everything else, it is a mastered discipline that we have to understand. A masculine man is not just somebody who says, hey, I'm a man and I'm yelling because I'm a man. A masculine man is a wise person. It's an intellectual person, but it's a forcefully protective person. But most importantly, it's a righteous person. And so when we're talking about masculinity being restored, especially in the Black community. We know we need that. We need to understand what form of masculinity we need. We don't need barbaric, savage forms of masculinity that are just toxic. We damn near need a samurai mixed with a little bit of Buddhist monk. And I'm just being honest with y'all. So, that is what I'm getting out of that story. And that is what I want people to get out of them.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I found that really fascinating, and it was just something she just happened to slip into conversation. And then the other thing is, Dr. Sharnael is actually a doctor. She's a naturopathic doctor, and I was explaining to her a little bit more about you and your mission and who you are and everything. And she started explaining about the physical differences with the races and the actual superhuman powers of the Black race, and actually breaking it down into the specific muscles, bones, all sorts of things. So I thought as well you would find that very interesting, Pharoh.
Yeah, and I would love to have this conversation with this woman, because obviously she's an adult and she's mature enough to have it. And what I want people to realize is we have to have these conversations, because if you are in your right state of mind, you should be on a quest for intelligence. That's what, when we're kids, we play with toys. When we grown, we play with knowledge. So what people have to realize is these type of conversations are not to say, hey, let's attack each other and go to war. These conversations are to figure out what's going on, because outside of different species or haplogroups of people, we got giants that nobody's talking about. We have extraterrestrial bodies that nobody's talking about. So we have to have conversations with each other about who we are, all the way down to molecules, all the way down to DNA, all the way down to essence of our origins, because we got other things we got to figure out too. And so, this is a beautiful opportunity for someone such as myself. I love information. And I don't know what everybody else subscribes to. I am underneath, due to plausible research, I am underneath the understanding that there is intelligent life outside of the form that we all readily subscribe to. And I feel like anybody that I've ever met in my entire 27 years of existence, anybody that I've ever met who understands or is open to the fact that extraterrestrials exist, I've never met a racist person who believes in extraterrestrial. So with that being said, I think that, I can only speak for myself. I respect people's free will, but if I did insert my opinion, I would say that we need to have a public dialogue about extraterrestrials more, and people need to take that more serious, because I've never met a racist person that subscribes to extraterrestrials, because it would be retarded. Because if you subscribe to that and something comes down here, something comes out of the water and it's purple and it has 5 arms, you would try to kill it because you're racist. And so, we have to understand how dangerous racism really is. Racism deletes you from an entire spectrum of information because you put yourself in a fear bubble. And I'm not saying that there are not dangers outside of your species. It just happened. If I go to the jungle right now, I can get bit by a rattlesnake, because that's the danger of me dealing with a rattlesnake. But we need to learn each other, and we need to learn each other for global ascensional purposes, so that we can know what truly is and is not best for everybody, and we can make sure everybody has what is best for them and does not have what is not best for them. And I think that that's a great way to jump into this conversation.
Absolutely, and I'd just like to add, obviously, the mutual friend that me and Dr. Sharnael have, Kerry Cassidy. Kerry Cassidy is the queen of talking about extraterrestrials. So the two of you, we need to put you two together talking about that sometime soon, because she really is she's like the female version of Simon Parks. So yeah. But yeah, so let's do this.
I agree 1,000,000,000%. And I love what you just said. And also, you mentioned your mission and your purpose for the sake of a lot of people who are in my audience who may not have heard about either of you guys. Can you start, Amelia, and then go young Pharoh? Give me a little bit of background of who you are, what you're doing, how you got here, just to give everybody a little bit of guidance about your mission and what you're doing here.
Absolutely. So I'll try and condense mine. I went through some medical stuff in the early 2000s, read 1,000 books because I was bedridden, gave myself a really great sort of background in everything from herbs to Reiki to psychology and whirling dervishes, and did that. Then had got myself well, went into the music industry, got out of the music industry a few years later. But during that time, I had an emotional experience where I realized that there was something within my mind that was my enemy and it wasn't for my best good. And that I wanted to find out what it was, where it came from, and how the F to get rid of it. And so I was like, right, I need to figure this out. So for a year or two, between 2009 and 2011, I studied the dark within and the dark outside. Obviously, I ended up finding out a lot about what we now call the deep state and cabal. Back then, we used to call it the Illuminati. And I was basically finding out, what these people are up to, the fact that they're satanic, that they torture children, blah, 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 blah. And so I learned this stuff then, but then I focused mainly on mastering the mind. I mastered the mind by 2011. And then a couple of years ago, guided to set up my own coaching company. I teach women how to put their ego to sleep, reach permanent happiness. And in March, when COVID hit, basically God was like, right, well, you know more about this than most. You're going to have to speak out on what's really going on. And so I did so I started talking about, COVID, where it came from, what was going to happen next, how to deal with fear, all that sort of stuff. So now I'm spanning the two. I kind of do the enlightenment and the happiness and the spiritual side, but I also do the conspiracy fact side. And I just want to give Pharoh an intro because he'll do his own, but Pharoh is just amazing. Pharoh is like the next Malcolm X. He literally incarnated down here to lead the Black community into a whole new world of happiness and peace and healing. And he's just very, very skilled, very, very knowledgeable, and you just wouldn't believe it for his age, but that's because his soul is so ancient. But yeah, I mean, that's my little mini intro, but over to you, Pharoh.
Yes, thank you so much. Amelia is always so sweet to me. I love her. To introduce myself, I would consider myself a natural born genius / polymath. For those of you who may not know what a polymath is, don't worry, I'll explain really quickly. A monomath, even though I didn't just bring that up, I have to explain what a monomath is so you understand what a polymath is. A monomath is a human who reaches top 1% level of intellect in a specific study or field of academics. A polymath, mono means single or one, poly means many or multiple. A polymath is someone who reaches a top 1% of intellect on an elite level in many different subjects. So I would consider myself a polymathic genius. Words are so cliche these days. I have to say a spiritual guy or a conscious guy. Really, I think we should just replace the word with common sense. But I would like to say I have a super level of common sense. I'm a polymath, and I have utilized my mind to a point where I know how to let me figure out how to say this without trying to sound like a superhero. I know how to actually kind of slow down time with my mind and focus through extreme amounts of pressure in order to accurately calculate thought. Now, as crazy as that may sound, I can do it. And so what I've been able to discover is the science of metamorphosis of your consciousness and how to stay stabilized under pressure in order to properly think. And that is what a lot of people are not able to do. They're not able to think under stress. But if you can control your heart rate, you can think under stress. And the easiest way to control your heart rate is to become fearless. And unbeknownst to me, I was born into a life that forced me to become fearless because I was born in the ghetto. So, in that, it's like Jesus Christ being born in the projects. You probably won't be that nice, but you will still be Jesus. And so that's metaphorically how I'm delivering myself to you all. So with that being said, I'm very in tune with frequency. I'm very in tune with thought. I believe in living a righteous life, not because I want to do right all the time. I will be lying to you, but because the universe creates at a frequency of 1.618. 1.618 is the ratio that you get from a right angle when it's missing its hypotenuse, which is the longest side of that triangle. And when you take that ratio and then you add it on to itself, not only does it begin to create a spiral, it begins to ascend at a rate of 1.618, which some of you may notice on this flower of life ring that I have on my ring and my hands. And so I believe in being binded to the universe, and I believe that discipline is like the glue to that bind. And to backtrack what I just said, every time I see a homeless person, no, I don't want to give them $10, but I do it because I live a righteous life. So what I want people to realize is being in tune with the higher level of consciousness is not what people make you think. It's not about being happy all the time, because you're not going to be happy all the time. We're living life. McDonald's is not supposed to be a thing, but guess what? It is. And if you're late to work, you'll stress. But you still have to find natural happiness inside of this artificial matrix that they have us living in. And so when I say I don't feel like doing the right thing all the time, that is what I mean. Doesn't mean I want to break out and be an evil person, but inside this body, yes, I get tired. Yes, I get aggravated. Yes, I get upset. But my binding to the higher source is what keeps me humble. It's what keeps me loving. It's what keeps me patient, because I understand the universe is infinite and I have no excuse not to express the universe on an infinite level other than being within a scope of lack of discipline. So I want everybody to take that from me. Discipline yourself. The seeds you sow are the trees that you will eat from. Every fruit in your life that you had that has put a bad taste in your mouth, even though you don't want to take accountability for it, you did it. It's your fault. Nobody's telling you to put up with that ignorant stuff in your life. Nobody's telling you to hang around those group of friends. Nobody told you to marry that loser, and nobody told you to be toxic. And so I want everybody to take that from my introduction.
Then one other thing I just want to add is that, you know, there's a group of society which is, you know, the inner city youth, particularly boys, the same, you know, when we talk about those teenage elephants, um, basically the teenage boys and the young youth. Pharaoh is one of the only people I know of on earth that can actually get through, and they will actually listen to him. And so sometimes people, you know, I may refer someone to listen to Pharaoh's YouTube, which is extremely popular. And sometimes people are like, oh, I'm not sure about this. I'm like, he isn't talking to you. He isn't talking to you. So there's a specific group that he can reach that no one else can reach. If me or you tried to listen, they would not listen. And so that's very important. I just want everybody, because I know so many people are going to want to go and look Pharaoh up after this, and I'm just letting them know that he knows who he's talking to specifically. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have people from all walks of life that are big fans. He does, of which we are, you know, we are some of them. But I just want people to be aware that his ability to speak to the hard-headed young men that will not listen to anyone, he can get through.
I would say this as I pass it back to Wolverton. I'm able to trauma bond because I can relate to the trauma. So what it is, when it comes to speaking to Black people specifically, you have to be able to trauma bond on some level in order to communicate. It's like, you know, if you want to talk to a fly, you got to start eating feces. If you're not going to start eating feces, you can't relate to the life of that fly. So when it comes to Black people, I'm not blaming any other race of people, but there are specific traumas that we go through and have been through
Exactly.
that are only relatable to us. Just like white people, it's some stuff you would be like, Pharaoh, get out of here, because I don't know what that's like. You know, let me bring something up. These are things that middle class white people argue about that I could never help on. Who's going to inherit the family trust? I have to leave the room on that argument because I don't even have a damn trust. So the point I'm trying to make is everybody got to stay in the lane and come together from our lane, but let us work how we can work. And for me, like I said, it's very unfortunate. I'm not glorifying it, but I'm not gonna say I was a gang member, but I have been around people that most people can't hang around. I've been shot. I've been to prison, so I can talk to these people and say, "Hey, you may not want to make that decision," and I can bond with them because we have relatable trauma.
Well, and before you guys go any further, if anyone who is on here right now, if you please do me a ginormous favor, and even you guys, Amelia and Pharoh, if you could tweet this out or share this post so we have maximum amount of people who are listening to this. I don't want anyone on the planet to miss what you're saying right here, because I mean, I'm literally moved to tears. I'm doing my best to hold back over here, just because, oh my gosh, the frequency in which you speak, it carries such an authenticity that it is literally felt in my heart. Like and that's why I was so drawn to when you did the interview with Robert Steele, and both of you with the panel. I was just blown away by so I can smell bullshit, and I'm telling you, the authenticity and where you and your presentation is not just a presentation like many people who speak because they have a motive or an agenda or something where they need to get something. And when these people are speaking, I hope you guys are understanding and actually feeling their heart, because they're speaking from the heart. And when with that heart dialogue, there is a frequency that is felt. It is not spoken. It doesn't need to be explained. It's just something that you can connect with. And I think the reason why you guys have such an audience, I know why you have such an audience, is because it's not out of selfish gain. It's 100% service. And because it comes from that authenticity. Laura Eisenhower has the same thing. David Rodriguez has the same thing. You know, many of the people that you guys run with, they have the same thing. And it's, we're finding each other. We're finding each other for this purpose and this collaboration, because it's the diversity, like Pharoh mentioned. We have to have each other, because I would never be able to speak to your people. Your people may not listen to anything that I have to say either. And yet we all have our own communities and our own audiences and our own little, cell. But on a smaller note, each cell within our body is a cell of God. So we have these cells within us, and then we have the cells here, and then we have the brain, and then we have the galaxies. And what I'm loving about what's happened with the sea that started in March, and even the pressure cooking of this push for the NWO and all this stuff that's going on with the election right now, which I do want to touch on before we get off, is that we are finding each other. And there's been this like pressurized thing that's happened where stuff is surfacing, but people are finding each other and they're waking up. And most of my coaching, I mean, I had three coaches things today with personal consultations, and I'm like, well, how did you find me? And people are saying, well, I started waking up in March when all of this stuff happened. And it's just like, oh my God, thank you, Jesus. Like that this actually was for something, and I wouldn't have found you without this situation, or maybe one day we would have, and probably we already knew each other a million miles back. But thank you for what you're doing. And also, I would love to hear what you think about where we are as far as the political realms, because I know that you guys have a lot to say about just what's happening with the election.
I was just going to say, the other thing though is also, though, remember, you're going to do the physicality of the difference with the black race, the physical. Let's do that. Just do that first, and then we could do politics. That way we can kind of wrap the politics.
Thank you. So in the celebration of diversity, first of all, I grew up military, and I loved how you used the analogy about the races, and how, like, Ronald Reagan even had one point said, if aliens came, all of a sudden we would not be fighting with one another anymore, because we would all be like, oh, what the F, like, we need to bind together, because there could be something bigger that's worse. And I know that there's good guys and bad guys, white hats and black hats, as far as the reptilians, and then the whatever good stuff too. Believe me, I know the difference. And also, I mean, being in military, growing up military, I literally did not know the difference between black and white. I could not even fathom any difference. Like, I grew up, my name is Sharnael. Believe me, I get a lot of BET magazines sent to me on a regular. And even like, oh, you're dating Sharnael. It's like, oh, they assume I'm a black person. And that's fine, because I celebrate that. I grew up in a very mixed, open field in the military. where my parakeet was named Tamika. I had black Barbies, black Cabbage Patch dolls. There was no separation whatsoever. And especially when we lived overseas and in the northern areas, because we had, German demonstrations going down the street, like blowing up our cars on a regular. And we had, the Russian bombs and things like that were happening and just being in Germany. So we didn't have time to be worried about what someone looked like or what have you. And it wasn't until I moved to back to the United States at 13 to the South Pacific, no judgment, but that's where I had my first wake up of just like, oh my God, because I'd come from Germany, and also, the first group of friends that I had happened to be black. Like I said, I had no understanding of any difference. And so they had labeled me a Nazi and lover. And I probably shouldn't have said the first word either. So I'm just like, what? Like, I just was like, I have no concept, like literally no grid for that level of ridiculous. And we all have the same cells, the same blood, same organ. And I will tell you, the diversity is a celebration, because while I was explaining on a medical anatomy, thank God for black people, because they have extra twitch in their muscles. They have literally extra muscles that white people don't have. That's why they dominate sports. They dominate like the Olympics. They break, the running, all the running, the 4-minute mile. It's like these guys. I mean, you guys are. Not that we need you for sports. Believe me, that's totally screwed. But also, I mean, I truly believe in my studies that you are the original Jews, which are the most high life force on the planet, and also the richest. So why,
Oh,
why
and the
do you
femur bone was that the other thing? The thing about the bone.
So the femur is the strongest bone in your body, and you guys have a whole freaking extra muscle that and no one else on the planet has. Us people, we're just like, we all have DNA, and we all come from different stuff, and it's all a mixed bag, but you literally have the physicality that we could never even like, whatever, without enhancements or, DNA, messing with. But I don't even know if you've ever heard any of that on anatomy. But you guys should all check that out and see what the anatomy differences are, or the biological differences are.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely I have some things I want to share with you too. So we'll definitely have some beautiful conversations even off the live. And to that, I want to say this, right? So that people know how to receive that information. That information to me is something that I know. And what I want people to know is if you hear a white person tell you something about yourself, it's not to be taken egotistical, it's not to be taken, demonically. The point is we're trying to figure each other out as a species. So that way, for me personally, this is how I think. I can locate things in my mind. Let's just say that. And I ask myself, I say, okay, let me channel my ancestors and put myself back in a point of time where these beings came to this planet. And for people who don't understand about time, right? I mean, who don't understand how to use time as a power, I'm going to give you a psychic ability really quick.
Oh my God.
Time is infinite. A time period is only a point of cause and effect within that infinite capsule. So right now, that never just happened. It only happens when I remember that it happens. So I have to create a concept of calculation to remember what I'm doing within an infinite field. So we can literally go back to the ancient world today if we start behaving the way they were yesterday. Behave, two different words, be and have. What you are being will determine what you have. And so while I'm doing my Doctor Strange things in my personal time, I had to ask myself, okay, without being egoless, because a lot of y'all can't contact the spirit world because you got too many demonic entities in your soul because you haven't flushed at least the majority of that out. So I had to ask myself, I said, okay, if we were building pyramids and we were here by ourselves at one point in time, whether we want to say Caucasians or non-black people were doing whatever with their history. If we were building pyramids and nobody was here, then white people can't really be the biggest threat because they wasn't the biggest threat in the ancient world. So we got to ask ourselves, who really is destroying this planet or what? Because if everybody just sit down for a second and we say, okay, Egyptians was doing this, Nordics and Vikings was doing that. We wasn't threatening each other like that. The Greeks was studying from the Egyptians. They weren't a threat like that. When Alexander the Great came into Egypt, it was already vacant. So we have to ask ourselves, who is the ninja in this situation? I don't know if a lot of y'all are able to detect the threat, but I can detect the threat. There is a threat that is hidden here, and nobody's seeing it. And it's like we being brainwashed, or our minds is being wiped, and it's like an invisible page of history that's gone, and we filling that page with an assumptive beef. But if you honestly, genuinely talk to white people as a black person, they don't know what the fuck going on either. Let's just be honest, they don't know. These people are just as confused as we. These people think, some people really think we evolved from monkeys, whether you white, black, or whatever. Some people really think a monkey turned into a person, which, if that's the case, you must not think Twilight is a sci-fi film. And so you must think your turtle can turn into your daughter. So my thing is, a lot of people just don't have a great template of knowledge. They don't understand how genetics work. And they don't understand that if they did know how genetics work, the evolution theory would not be a thing. And so here's what I'm saying. I'm not excluding slavery or the things that make us sentimental in this country. What I'm saying is my thoughts are beyond even that. My thoughts are at the point where, let's say the devil, right? This is what we can all agree on, that everybody believes there is a being which exercises maximum frequency level evil. So we have to ask ourselves, right? If the police, if God came down here and he was taking a police report and he said, could you describe the devil? What would we say? We would say, okay, he's wicked, or it's wicked. We would say it hides very well. It's very intelligent. And so when we add up these factors and we close our eyes, if we had to look for the devil in our mind, we haven't seen it yet. But we know that it's pulling, whatever this entity is, it's pulling all of the strings. So really what we have to do in our minds, we have to navigate through every different, let me see how I can say this for the basic person. There are over 167 different haplogroups of humans. AKA, there are over 167 different forms of humanoid species on the planet. You got black people, white people, Spanish people, Chinese people. Then you got the people that they create if they interbreed and create a child. So we got so many different species of people on this planet Earth. You got to navigate through all of them and say, where did this come from? Where did all of these different people come from? And who the hell is making them battle? And if you are able to do that, you will come to the same conclusion as anybody that has genuinely researched this, that there is an extraterrestrial presence on this planet making everybody fight each other. Some of us are organic, some of us are non-organic, but we are fighting each other based upon this species. And I want to say this before I pass it. The word Illuminati was brought up earlier, right? A lot of people think that's a conspiracy theory. Let me bring this up. No matter what you think about conspiracy theories, right? Let's look at the hierarchy. When you gang banging, the person at the top is called a big homie. That's what they call. When you if you're in the military, your superior is a general. If you are a Illuminati member or a secret society member, the head of your faction is called a Pindar. A Pindar, by definition, is the successor to the Lizard King. Now, here where I'm going with this. Religion, right? Because I'm not religious. And a lot of y'all know how I feel about religion. You might get offended if you ask me, so don't. But with that being said, when we study in the three monotheistic religions, right, what do we all have in common? They came here to this planet the same time that nobody can remember what happened. Nobody can from when we go back to 6,000 years ago, It's like, damn, what happened? We all trying to figure that out. But what we do know is that religion starts there. And what do we know about religion? We know that religion teaches you to wait on a Messiah. But religion comes from demotic text. Demotic etymologically means demonic text. And demonic text was introduced to Egypt by the Ptolemies. And the Ptolemies worshipped the crocodile head deity in Egypt named Sebek. In the original language of the original word for Messiah in demonic text has no vowels. So it's just mus, like a snake. Now hear me clear. In the three monotheistic religions, right? Once again, you're waiting on a Messiah. You're waiting on a mus, a lizard being. What is the devil described as? A lizard being. And I'm not saying reptiles are evil, because they're not. But now this is where we get into the differentiation between positive and negative beings on that frequency. But here we clear. Jesus and Satan both refer to themselves as the same person, the morning star. Now, for people who say we don't really believe in extraterrestrials, for one, you got to ask yourself, how do you think people just got knowledge of artificial intelligence? Do you think that just comes overnight? Let's just be serious here. How do you think people get the information to create a satellite? Let's just be serious here. But second of all, right, if you're waiting on a Messiah, okay, I'm gonna teach you that you're waiting on the extraterrestrial. The only thing is that you need to realize is you may be through occultic practitioner giving up your spiritual sovereignty to be possessed by this entity. Now I'm gonna give y'all the science. If the Messiah, aka the Mus, the Lizard King, Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, whatever Messiah you waiting on, they're all the same. If they gotta come from heaven or wherever they coming from into this atmosphere, that means they coming from outer space. So that right there qualifies them to be an extraterrestrial. And then you believe that Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, whichever Messiah you believe is coming, they're going to come with their angels on these flaming chariots. If I ask you, what is the material that the chariot is made out of? Have you ever seen it? Could you identify it if you walk past it today? You would have to say no, which makes it an unidentified flying object. So by default, your religious belief has you waiting on an extraterrestrial to come on an unidentified flying object and come for its chosen people. So for people who feel like extraterrestrials is something that's stupid, why do you believe in one now? And so my thing is, what we need to realize is somebody is lying to us. And this goes beyond white people. It goes beyond Chinese. It is something on this planet that is doing a very great job at hiding. And not only is it doing a very great job at hiding, it is doing an even better job at manipulation. And the only way we're going to find it is through sniffing out its frequency. How do you sniff something out? You got to get its scent. What is the scent of the devil? Evil. So how do you find evil? You find good. And when you know what good feel like, you know anything that don't feel like that is evil. So God, the creator, the universe, is always on one guaranteed frequency. And that's truth. Truth. Yep. If you want to find God, go to truth and you will find him. And so, or whatever you believe. So the point I'm trying to make is whatever is not the truth is evil. And that's how you find it. Evil is the word live spelled backwards, because anything in opposition to nature is evil. The word devil is the word lived. If you have lived in opposition to nature, you've successfully been a devil. And so if we want to find the devil, we got to find the people that live in opposition to righteous frequency, aka Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton, and all of these wicked people, and then the entities that are even higher than them. So I never know this kind of a long-winded presentation of my mind, but I want people to understand why we're doing what we're doing. We're basically hunting down whatever it is that is scrambling the consciousness of this planet. We are all interconnected through a web of consciousness. Your community is your web, and then it connects into my so-called spider web. And what's happening is we don't know the truth within our own webs, and then we coming outside of our webs to miscommunicate with each other. The point of life is communication. Everything communicates, plants, everything. We need to be able to communicate on a scale of truth, and we cannot do that if people are arguing over egotistical things. If they let in the mainstream media, you know how many people wouldn't have this conversation with you because they just seen something about police brutality and they can't psychologically say, hey, that belongs over there and this is something totally separate. They can't categorize experiences in their mind because they're not in control of their mind. And if you are not in control of you, then you are being possessed.
Yes.
It's that simple. And a lot of people are possessed by this entity that we're looking for. And I found it inside a lot of y'all.
Yeah, well, this is it. It's so interesting what you said. So I'll keep this brief, but the I'm not sure if we want to actually say it by name, but the reptilians, which again, this is something that we can take this to another level when you speak with Kerry, but the reptilian leader, the actual leaders of that group, the group that is here, they are white, and so they actually created the racism. So they are white in color, as in white as snow, white. And so they created that, so that the hierarchy of the reptilian entities is they are white. And then the other thing that came up when you were talking about the devil is one of the things that the devil does when you were talking about what are some of the things it does, it spreads lies. That's one of the things it does. It spreads lies. And so it's like there's just so many lies. And the thing is that their favorite way to actually put lies out there is to grab a big chunk of truth and then put a sprinkle of lies on top. So it means that and vice versa, 80-20. So 20-80, 80-20. But it's not pure truth. The only thing that's true is love. But everything else is a combination of 80-20, 20-80. And so what it means is if you find a bit of falsehood, the 20% falsehood in the 80% truth, you throw the whole 80% truth away, and then vice versa again. And so this is to confuse the mind. And then the other thing is just that what I feel is important is that this loving mind, this service to others, this unity consciousness feel that is coming together, that you can see happening. I see that as the Christ consciousness. And so that's the Christ consciousness, the loving energy that's rising within us. So yes, some people are looking outside for something to come in. I really think it's coming in within us, and we're embodying it. We are embodying love, which is Christ consciousness. And that's not connected to a religion. That's Christ consciousness in everybody, all humans.
Yeah, and if I'm going to interject here, and then I have one last question before we to sign off. What I can agree with, and with what you guys are saying, is that there has been a scrambling for division. And because they know if we are divided, a house divided cannot stand. And I am all about the whole not waiting for someone, whether it's a UFO to come get us, or Santa Claus, or Jesus, or whoever. And I absolutely adore Jesus. I think he was a very high ascended master, son of God, what have you. I mean, I look at the Bible like quantum physics, but there are other amazing, great teachers, and that's a whole different discussion. I am not cool with division, and religion has been a big force in that, and so has this whole race game that they've really played this card to keep us in this polarity. Because if we are not working together in the union, unity has a vibration as well, and love and truth, like young Pharaoh was saying, that is a vibration beyond all. And so I love what Amelia is saying about, our DNA, every single cell within us already contains the technology for union, love, truth, peace, rehealing, restoration, resurrection power, bilocation, remote healing, all these things, and even time travel. He's talking about time travel. We have the technology within us, and so going back to the question about where we are now, as far as this whole Trump situation, let's just go. I'd love to hear both of you kind of say where we are, and then we're gonna have to cut it because I have another another thing with Jason Q here tonight, who I think you guys would absolutely adore. He is a coder, and he has got not just the knowledge, but he has the actual proof of every single thing he talks about. But talk to me about where do you think we are in this whole, I haven't even watched the news in like 3 or 4 days just because of the low vibration of it. And I'm just waiting for like them to hurry up, arrest whoever, do what you need to do. And let's just get on with the show because, you know,
Right.
whether you like it or not, you know, but what's you guys' 2 cents on that?
Go ahead. You can go. You can go ahead, Amelia.
So I believe that the arrest will happen only once the person can not only be arrested, they need to be arrested by the right officer, processed in the right police station, attend the right court with the right judges, with the right jury, then be transported in the right bus to the right prison and then looked after by the right prison guard. Because if we have any failures in any of those places, it all goes wrong. So I do think that's the delay, that all of the right pieces of the puzzle have to be in, but I do think it's coming. Action has happened. I might get the title wrong, but like someone very senior in the military, he released, he fired himself, if that makes sense. Like, you know, Trump released that guy. I know that's the beginning of some changes. That's a big move that he made. And so I feel that we are going to all be okay. We all need to hold our frequency. And for those that haven't done the work on themselves, the most important thing is for them to work on themselves right now. Work with coaches like myself, like Dr. Sharnael. Do the work now. There is no other time. It is now. It is now. It is now. And then the other thing that my angels were coming up with when we were talking, it was something about Pharaoh. I'm just going to try and remember it. I may have to jump back and just say it. It will probably come when Pharaoh's talking. It was just something about the boys that he's able to reach, but I'm not sure what it is. So yeah, if I can hand over to you, Pharaoh, I'll probably get that just before we end.
Yes.
And before you jump in, by the way, you're talking about the new guy, Chris Miller, which, by the way, if you look at his pictures from like 2001 when he was doing consultation outside work for contract work with outside the special, and he did special forces. If you see pictures of him, you're like, oh my God, he is a freaking badass. Like, he's older now and what have you, but this guy was not he's not someone you want to play with. And not only that, we have the attorney who's representing Trump in this situation, Lynn Wood, that has represented like everybody. But go ahead, young Pharaoh. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
That's beautiful. I want to say that whatever these beings who came here 6,000 years ago to do right now is that we're at capstone level of the pyramid. And what a lot of people don't realize is when we say this is a spiritual war, it's true. It's a spiritual war. The planet actually went by a black hole, and that black hole has kind of been pulling in the electromagnetic field, aka the toroidal field, aka the latitude, longitude line, key line, whatever cute words you want to use. It's been pulling in the frequency of this planet into that black hole for a certain amount of millenniums, and the energies in that black hole have been attaching to us. So what's happening right now is what most people need to realize is you have holistic reality and then you have individual reality, which influences holistic reality. Just because the world may or may not become in a better place doesn't mean your life is going to change. Your individual life is not going to change until the frequency of your heart changes. So the first thing I want people to realize is Trump can't be your savior for the same reason I can't be your savior. Nobody can be your savior but you. And so whether these people get arrested or not, whether these people start a war or not, what you need to realize is your destiny has been in your hands all this time and you've been failing yourself. Let me just say that. Now, for two, the way that I feel about what's happening is I feel two things need to happen. And I don't want to tell anybody what to do. I'm not pulling no rank. I'm just saying what I feel. I feel Donald Trump is going to have to allow, I'm only speaking on me, I don't care about nobody else, myself, to do what must be done on behalf of my people, such as myself. And why am I saying that? Doesn't matter if the swamp is drained or not. A white man is not able to come into the black community and tell anybody anything. There's no way a white man can come into the community and say, put the guns and drugs down because you gave us the guns and drugs. It's just that simple. A white man cannot come into the black community and say, hey, y'all need to behave this way because for one, you don't know how we need to behave because we're not the same species of people. And for two, even whether we want to blame the Democrats or not, white people have been promoting the crazy behavior on TV. So what's going to have to happen is Donald Trump is going to have to allow black men to redeem our own image, to reestablish our own respect, and to get our own communities together. And the way that we operate is not the way that white people operate. And I'm bringing this up because it's important. White people restore balance verbally and psychologically. We restore balance physically. That's what we do. We're not about to argue with you. For example, if pedophilia, the reason pedophilia is not a thing in the black community, because we will put some hands on you immediately. So what Donald Trump is going to have to allow is he's going to have to allow us to do what we do. Go ask any prison, go ask any warden, go ask any sergeant why the gangs in jail don't really get out of control. Because the most mature men in the jail, we the ones who say, hey, y'all can do that over there. That's y'all wrong, but don't come over here with that. So you're going to have to allow the masculine black men to say, hey, if you're a weirdo, if you're a creep, if you're a womanizer, if you're a domestic violence type of guy, you have to go over there. And if you don't go over there, we're going to beat you up. So what's happening is, I'm not saying let us break the law, but we need our own police. We need our own. I propose 75% segregation. And this is what I mean. I don't mean segregation as in if you white, you can't walk. I don't mean that. What I mean is we need 75% independence as far as how much we govern ourselves. The 25% is the 25% that's not segregated is so that we can still socialize with other races of people outside our community. But what the world needs to do is it needs to respect black people as adults. We're not kids. We were not living in huts when you found us. We didn't evolve from monkey. All of that, all of the what's the word? Eugenic and bureaucrat things that you're being that you're functioning off, you gotta throw that in the garbage. What we need the world to do is simply get out of our way. Just like we not in nobody else's way. White people don't need us telling them how to build their nation. So we need that same respect. I need that same respect. I know what black children need. I know what black adults need. I know what we don't need. And with that being said, I'm in here. When I look at Egypt, I look at the systems that the world uses today. Microchip system, based off of the template of the way the pyramids were encoded. So I know for a fact Africans discovered plumbing. We had flushing toilets and running water. We had electronics. We had acoustic healing resonance equipment. We had levitation equipment. We learned levitation from studying the Kepler beetle. My ancestors intellectually achieved knowledge that the rest of the world is still using today to build their nations. So why am I bringing this up? I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. All I'm saying is I know what I need because my ancestors already told me because they showed you. So let us clean ourselves up and we can be allies. China's a threat. I don't like China either. For the same righteous reasons Trump don't. Let me build an army and we can put them in check. All of these tech companies, let me get them out of the Congo. We can do what we want to do with the resources and won't nobody else have shit. I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. If these beings want to take over the world, we can bully their ass out of the way. And so I feel that I'm going down the road of real life Black Panther mixed with a little bit of Buddha, mixed with a little bit of samurai. And with that being said, Donald Trump can be Captain America and we can be the Avengers, or we can be two powerful forces that just respect each other and don't have no beef. But I understand the threat level on this planet on all levels. And as any man who knows his job is to protect and provide, that is what I plan to do. I have no beef or problems with Donald Trump. I simply want to become powerful enough to aid not just my people, but any righteous person on the planet that is being overwhelmed at battle. And I'm ending here. This is how I view myself. If I had an army, and this was 6,000 years ago, and I was sitting on the pyramid, and my let's say my trusted, my trusted advisor, they come in the room and they say, hey, the nation of Donald Trump is being invaded. The first thing I would say is by who? And then if I hear you being invaded by pedophiles, if I hear you being invaded by technocrats and kleptocrats and communists, even though you're not asking for my aid, I'm going to tell my advisor, you send my 1,000 best men over there and you kill everything. And tell them we don't, put it on our tab. So that's how I feel right now. I've discovered who the problem is, not just in white people's world, but in my world. But the only difference is I don't have the authority power to clean my world up without catching a charge. So I need that power, whether that power is going to be given to me through this government or whether the government will allow me to be a grown ass man like I want to be, put my money towards creating my own system and cleaning up my community. But that is my message out there as far as this election. Let us help you. Ain't nothing wrong with no help because you need it. You need it. So that's true. That's true. So let us help.
So yeah, what he's saying, it does go along with a lot of the visions that I have, and the reason why I'm always being told by God that my job is to help Pharaoh with what he's doing. I can see it. Like I see this is what he's, I'm to help in any way I can, and whether that's to expose him to such different intellectual minds that may give him some, steel sharpening steel, that kind of thing. Literally like Robert David Steele. The only thing I was just going to say is just that Loosh being the food of the leader of the entity that has attacked, it lives on that, and Loosh is human suffering. So basically, as we bring ourselves out of human suffering, it will run out of food and will not be able to survive here. So
yeah, and I want to get this out too. My soul is compelling me to say this. This is what Donald Trump needs to realize, right? You got black people like me that acknowledge that we were done horribly wrong, but we mature enough to know who did it. I'm mature enough to know my beef is with Hillary Clinton. It's not with Sharnael. I don't have a problem with Sharnael. So that's me. And it took a lot of ego killing to get there. Then you have millions of black people in this country, not even just around the world, who have no clue of accurate target of what the accurate target is. And all they're going to hear is, I get a chance to extract revenge. That's it. They're not going to say it was this officer, it wasn't that officer. They're not going to say, oh, it was the Obama administration, it wasn't the Trump. No, they're not going to do that. So you need somebody in the middle that these people trust. And I'm not a coon. I don't kiss white people's butt. And as much as that may put a bad taste in people's mouth, that's what's going to save us. Because you're going to need somebody to say, wait a minute, angry ass mob of black people. I feel the same way you feel, but it wasn't them. Do not destroy it. So my thing is, if black people, black men, if somebody with my mind and with my drive, I'm an honest man. You're not going to like everything about me. Honestly, I don't really care if people don't like everything about me. My intentions are righteous intentions. You're going to need somebody exactly like me to be the buffer, because the deep state has basically created a citizen self-destruction button. It's like in the video game when you get to the last level, when you beat the boss and he say, well, we all gonna die, and the thing starts blowing up. It don't matter if these people go down, because now you got people that's gonna try to seize the opportunity. You got black people that's gonna riot, go crazy, and now you got two wars on your hand. You got the deep state, you got these ETs that nobody believes in, you got China, you got Israel, and you got a whole lot of angry black people with no discipline, which makes them even more dangerous. They have no bounds. So you're gonna need somebody like me to prevent. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's not just black people. If you look at even the BLM, if you go watch TV, they're white.
Yeah.
It's it's not about and I love that you keep talking about righteousness, because I'm a word person and it sounds like you're a sleuth when it comes to words too. But the word to be righteous has to do with to be in right standing, and there's also a frequency to that. And I love also how you keep bringing up responsibility, because to be responsible is to be response-able, meaning there's not a reaction, but there's a response, and there's two completely different things. We can react, like in medicine. If you give someone something that causes a reaction, that sounds bad, like, oh God, did you have a reaction, versus did you have a response, meaning was there a good something that came out of it. And I really believe, and that's why I love having so many different people come on my show with such extremely big, diverse ideas and backgrounds, to bring their level um, of communication and perspective to the table, for lots of people to be able to have the courage to actually go past the box that they've been in and go, you know what, let me tiptoe over here and like just listen to what other people are saying. I'm not saying that everyone has to buy everything that everyone says on every one of my shows. I on purpose bring lots of diverse people with lots of very diverse ideas, because what you got to understand is the collaboration and the cross pollination is what brings the multiplication. And if we can work together, and if we can focus on what we do agree on instead of what we don't agree on, and point out all the things that are wrong and bad, whatever, bad or good, there's all this polarity, and we never come together. And what union and truth and love and peace and unity has such a strong frequency. And when we are in that pocket, as you guys know, you've talked a lot about frequency here tonight, and I'm a frequency like freaking phenomenal. I mean, that's like
frequency freak.
Jam. Yes, that's my jam, is frequency. And so, even with what's going on the planet, that we're ascending.
That's right.
With or without whoever wants to come along. And what's happening is the frequency, even the Schumann was spiked so hard yesterday, and it's still sort of on that back end of that. And what happens is, as we spiral up, the lower frequencies are actually dissolving, because so many people as a collective are coming higher with this like choice of righteousness, choice of love, choice of kindness, like you said, giving to people and loving on people and serving and service and the law of one. And the more that participate in that collective, it's dissolving this lower level vibration. So anyone who's down there is like, oh my God, like I have nothing to hang on to. And they're kind of like frailing in the wind, like if you had a loose wire out of a socket in a wall that's just like, blah. And so, there's this reactionary part. And then it also spikes your DNA. So when your DNA is spiked, anything that isn't God is going to surface, and you have the choice to either depress it, oppress it, suppress it, or transmute it. And if we don't take this opportunity right now to transmute all the freaking caca that's in our DNA all the way back, then we're not going to have this clear picture where we can look in the mirror and see God, source wants to be able to look and see the image of God in all of us. We all are together as one. We're all members of the same body, and we all have these cells on individual cells, trillions of cells within the body that each reflect the DNA of God. And so me and you coming together to like work together despite whatever differences and whatever, that is like, that's such a weapon. That is like, it's a love bomb. It's a total love bomb.
It's the ultimate weapon. And it's like, I don't understand. People have a hard time with that, but Bloods and Crips squad do all the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? How many different people squad do for a greater cause all the time? So why can't white and black people say, you know what, we not ignoring the past, we'll deal with that after, but we have to deal with the meat. If I see a boulder coming down the street, I have to get out the way. I can't stay in the street and be like, well, I'm not going to get out the way because you threw a rock at my house last week. We have to argue about last week after I get in front of the boulder. So,
Exactly.
you know, people, like I said, people don't have they don't have developed brains in the way that they think that they do. I talk about that all the time. A lot of people have been stressfully stimulated to where your brain is underdeveloped, your frontal lobe is all jacked up, and you literally are incapable of critical thought. But yet you want people to listen to what you think. And we have to realize that there's such things as priorities in life. And right now we have to prioritize the biggest threat. And then after that, we can talk about things that happened from a previous threat, but it's no longer a threat. So
That's so good.
yeah, that's all I'm saying. We have a live threat, and y'all want to argue
We
about,
do.
y'all want to argue and nitpick about things that are no longer a threat, even though we still deal with the effects. But we have to untangle them effects after we make sure this threat doesn't give us any new entanglement.
And I tell you what, we're in the biggest pivotal time of our, you know, everyone thinks that every day is the most important day. And I'm just telling you, we're in a pivotal timeline war. We're in an informational war. You know, everything literally is hinging on what happens in the next few days. And we do have to cut it short because we got to go. So I am going to post where everyone can connect with you guys. I'm going to post your links, websites, what have you, in the comments. But like literally 2 sentences each. Like, what is your any final words besides I freaking love you both. I love your diversity. I love what you bring to the table for our humanity. And I hope we can chat again. I hope we can do this again.
Yeah, definitely. I'll make sure you get my personal info as well, so we can have some good science conversations for each other's mind. And my 2 sentences are very simple. I'm coming up. Get out the way.
And my one is, other than I'm going to do what I can to help, is love yourself. It stops the demons from getting control of you.
Yes, I'm on board with all of that. And for me, is being true. You know, when we're true to ourselves and we're true to what we're supposed to do, why we're here. You know, I had an encounter one time and said, "You're not truly living unless you're living true." And that has been like that. It literally changed my whole direction and purpose of being here. And we have the responsibility, and we can take the responsibility. Like both of these guests have said, you know, we can be responsible. We can be responsible and be pivotal in the season that we're in with each and every choice, each and every thought, each and every feeling, with who we're hanging out with everything that we do, you know, and love is the thread through all humanity. And if we can come together and we can love well, not just love, not love to get something, not love with any undercurrent of motives or agendas or service to self, but actually love out of just unconditional love because you're freaking radiant beings of who you are. I just want to encourage every single person watching. You are born for this moment. You were born for this time, this Chronos time. You are a very important piece of what's going on in humanity right now. And if you could remember that, remember, the word remember means to do again, remember as one. So
Right.
as we become as one together, not only in ourselves, but in ourselves and our communities, and we can look past all the differences. You know, our brains are actually taught to look for differences. I encourage you to stop looking for differences. Deprogram. Time to deprogram, time to reprogram to the patterns of finding what is right, finding what's righteous, finding what's love, feeling the love, and also looking for what's the same. We are the same. We're here right now for this moment. And so use that.
Sorry, can I just say something? Can I just
Yes.
say, just so you know, Dr. Sharnael did a whole class last night on my live about how to, like how the MK Ultra works and how to break it. And I think it'd be great for you to have her on a live, maybe on Instagram, and she could go through it with you and your people, because it's really amazing. It's just how to break the programming.
Yeah, I have a whole teaching on how they even brainwash. You know,
Yeah,
what
just
what are the
basically how they
tactics.
brainwash and how to clear yourself of it. It was quite amazing.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, guys. I will see you guys out elsewhere. Hopefully, keep in touch. And for everybody who's watching, go to swiftfire.org. Swift as in quickfire.org, and you can get on the newsletter. Also, everybody here, I think, is on all the social media platforms with all the censorship. Please go to all of it. I'm going to post all of those links to have clickable links to be able to find these people. As you feel your resonance towards them and you want to keep following, please, I encourage you to do that. And I love all of you so much. You're amazing beings. Keep being radiant, true beings for all of us here. And we'll talk soon. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Love you.
Love. Peace.